Some of the most beautiful places on Earth begin where the road thins. They don't appear on postcards or spin on souvenir racks because most people never make it there. The dust keeps its own counsel. They aren't trending on your feed, and that's the point. Beauty doesn't always scream. Sometimes it settles like light across a still field. It breathes through small things. It whispers. I have spent years chasing that whisper, boots salted with forgotten miles. Following the faint road at the edge of the map, where margins widen into maybe a half smile, a nod, then a small trail only locals name. You hear it only when someone lowers their voice and says, "Go," but go gently. Soft steps, softer mind. Arrive, then let the silence arrive after you. This journey is for those moments, where the wind carries stories older than the words you speak, where morning arrives like a secret, mist lifting, colors waking slowly, a single bird testing the sky. Out there, beauty hides in plain sight, just past an unmarked bend. A valley where fog threads the pines like silver. A coast carved into cathedrals by waves that never hurry. A salt lagoon so still it draws the horizon with a single stroke. A village that glows blue after dusk, as if night learned to breathe light, not measured in landmarks, but in the heartbeats between footfalls. The world is still wide. Lean in, really listen, and the land answers. A fading arrow, a quiet nudge, the whisper that says, keep going. There is more, always more. Kotor, Montenegro, a town where mountains press the sea into a mirror and history takes a long, slow breath. Look at this bay, fjord-like, born of drowned river valleys, folded into steep limestone. Here, nature seems to cup a secret in its hands. Out on the water, the bay barely moves, reflecting red roofs, grey cliffs, a sky changing its mind. Within the walls, time slows. I walk under stone ramparts that climb the mountain like a question with no end. Venetian walls, Austro-Hungarian traces, a story written in masonry. The old town is a maze of cool alleys, cats napping on thresholds, laundries swaying like flags of ordinary life. St. Tryphon's Cathedral lingers in the square, weathered and patient. It measures time in bells, not seconds. Reflections hold the day together. Roof tile reds, cliffside greys, sky-lit blues. The mountains shelter, the sea connects. Trail to the fortress of San Giovanni zigzags through heat and history. Every step climbs through centuries. Every turn returns the town to you. Smaller, sharper, framed in blue. Between mountain and sea, people built a life that had to make sense in stone. Merchant bells once signaled sails returning from far coasts. Now, footsteps, coffee cups, whispered directions. Kotor sits in the shadow of Western Europe's headlines, and that is the gift. No rush to impress, no spectacle. If you come slowly, climb before sunrise, trace the stones with your hand. In the hush between mountain and sea, Kotor doesn't shout, it endures and asks you to do the same. Lofoten Islands, Norway, where mountains rise from the sea and the Arctic draws a hard, bright line across the horizon. A scatter of rock and light, the last outposts before open water and cold, unbroken air. Here, weather writes the day, and the sea keeps the time. I arrive to cliffs that refuse the shore, stones stepping straight into depth. Black granite breaks the horizon like the backs of sleeping giants, ancient and unbending. Morning is a breath held long, the day suspended between light and hush. Mist drifts from peak to peak, the sky moving like a slow tide across stone. Gulls write quick white sentences across the stillness, then vanish into blue. Oars whisper to the fjord. Every stroke is a measured conversation with depth. Villages cling to the seam between mountain and sea, as if stitched there by weather and will. Red rawbua, fishing cabins, ember bright against the blues, small flames that do not go out. Cod racks stand like wooden cathedrals, prayer and labor woven into salt and wind. I follow the road that yields to the shoreline, each bend opening a new stillness. White sand meets water cut like glass. Cold, honest, alive. Mountains mirror themselves, and for a moment the world feels perfectly balanced. This is a land of extremes, blue to slate, calm to squall, and back again. In summer, the midnight sun refuses to rest, laying gold across the islands, hours melting into one long afternoon. In winter, polar night gathers the light into a small, precious flame. Auroras pour like green rivers over houses and harbour, the heavens unspooling in silence. Stories live in rope and tide, boats tied, steam rising, laughter threaded through the wind. Svaneti in Georgia, where the Caucasus rise like a wall and time learns to move slowly. Here the air is thin, the light patient, and the mountains feel older than history itself. Stone watchtowers pierce the sky, sentinels of memory, keeping watch over every slate roof and narrow lane. They have stood through 1,000 winters, rough-hewn and unwavering. Families once slept beneath them, cradled by stone, the tower a guardian in the night. Harvests were guarded by them, granaries sealed like treasure against lean years. Stories were born in their shadow, names, feuds, and legends woven into the stone. Villages like Misty cling to slopes that feel untouchable. Ushguli endures at the world's edge, steadfast beneath a crown of ice. Paths wind into the mist, where every footstep echoes against rock older than the maps that tried to chart it. I walk slowly here, matching the valley's breath. The modern world keeps ringing my pocket. The hills answer louder. A shepherd nods as if to say, "You are a guest of the mountains." Isolation did not erase the culture here. It preserved it. Polyphonic songs drift from wooden balconies. Icons glow in lamplight. Chapels no larger than a breath. Faith pressed close to the heart. Svan towers stand shoulder to shoulder. Architecture turned into armor. Built against invaders. Built against avalanches. Guardians of grain, of family, of faith. Mountains close in, impenetrable, vast, and somehow intimate. Glaciers carve blue veins through stone. Rivers stitch the valley together in silver thread. Clouds skim the ridges, reading a script written in rock. A child runs where empires fade. An elder keeps the clock. At dusk, the towers glow, windows flicker, a hush settles over the fields. The mountains feel less like barriers and more like arms around a secret. If you come, come humbly. Let the road teach patience. Let the wind translate the songs. Stand beneath a watchtower and look up. Feel the heartbeat of a civilization that refused to vanish. Svaneti does not shout. It endures, and in its quiet, it remembers morning breeze over Bled. The lake lies emerald and unbroken, a polished mirror held in the palms of the Julian Alps. A single bell tower rises from an island of trees, white stone and copper roof cradled by water the color of spring glass. I drift with the light, slow and unhurried. Oars barely touch the surface, and circles expand like whispered secrets. The Church of the Assumption stands quiet at the island's heart, its paths softened by pine. These steps carry centuries of vows. On still days the bell rings once, and its note hangs in winter-cold air. Across the water the cliff unfurls, sheer, weathered, watchful. Bled Castle perches on its rim, a sentinel of red tiles and ancient walls. It gazes over waters that refuse to ripple without reason. From here, the lake opens like a storybook. Green shores, a ribbon of wooden boats, mountains keeping their counsel beyond. Time in Bled moves like rowing, steady, measured, deliberate. The town whispers rather than shouts. A quiet bench waits beneath beech leaves. A swan coasts by as if painted there. Even the wind behaves. As dusk gathers, colours deepen. Emerald to jade, slate to indigo. Lights kindle along the shore, and the island becomes a lantern in a bowl of night. The castle glows, a small constellation on a cliff of shadow. Bled does not ask for wonder, it simply presents it. The elegance of stillness, the grace of water, the poise of stone, a fairy tale real enough to touch, to row across, to hear in the soft toll of a bell. Here, magic does not perform, it rests, and in resting, it reveals
Socotra, a shard of earth adrift in the Arabian Sea, where time exhales and holds. The light arrives softly, unhurried, like a breath returning to itself. It settles on bark the colour of old embers. Valleys breathe here, secret cathedrals carved by wind and thirst. I step into a hush and let the island set the pace. Above me, dragon blood trees raise upside-down umbrellas, catching sky. Their sap, crimson as memory, once prized by sailors, once prized by healers. Now it marks the stone with stories only the wind repeats. The valley narrows, limestone ribs lift from the ground like the island's own skeleton. In cool pockets, rare frankincense holds on as if at the edge of an age. A gecko flickers, an ancestor, an exile, born of long solitude. Here, evolution wrote its own script in a silent room, no chorus from the mainland. The lines read patience, drought and salt. Plants hoard water. Trees lift umbrellas to sip the fog. Even the wind moves with care. Another turn, and the valley opens like a palm. Water whispers, older than maps, inviting the outsider to slow, to listen, to remember that wonder prefers a whisper.
Yakushima, Japan. A circle of granite rising from the sea, wrapped in cloud, breathing like a living thing. I come here for the forests, not just to see them, but to feel them. The air is cool and damp, salted by the ocean, heavy with resin and rain. Underfoot the path is velvet with moss, every stone a cushion, every root a staircase. Water threads through ferns and cedar knees, whispering its own directions. These are ancient trees, yakusugi, cedars that counted the centuries and kept counting. Some were seedlings before stories were written. Their bark spirals like galaxies. Their trunks are constellations of time. I tilt my head back and the canopy closes, green upon green, a cathedral without walls. Light sifts slow and silver. Rain is constant here. It doesn't always fall. Sometimes it hangs, sometimes it drifts. Sometimes it returns as mist that beads on my eyelashes. Locals joke it rains 35 days a month. I start to believe them. On days like this, the forest breathes, the soft exhale of leaves, the slow creak of cedar, the pulse of droplets. Shiratani Unsuikyo feels like a memory I'm walking back into. Moss draping the fallen, crowning the living, everything reclaimed, nothing wasted. They say sprites and spirits live here. I don't need the story to believe. I came chasing a view. I leave with a rhythm. Step, breath, rain, green. And the sense that beneath the moss, the island's heart keeps time for us all. Kyrgyzstan. Alpine lakes threaded through a country of wind and sky, the kind of blue that feels older than memory. I arrive where the road runs out and the grassland begins, an ocean of green, breathing beneath a ceiling of moving cloud. The sky writes in shadows, the earth reads in silence. Horses graze like commas in a long sentence of land. A rider passes, raincoat snapping, and the world returns to silence as if it never moved. The first lake appears without announcement. Ishikkul's distant shimmer gives way to smaller mirrors. Songkul, Kelsu, Alakul. I crouch at the edge and the sky crouches too. Even my breath feels loud. Out here, time is measured in hooves. I trade the rush of engines for the rhythm of a horse. The landscape unfolds at the honest speed of a heartbeat. The saddle creaks. Lark song. A thread of river weaving silver through the grass. Yurts rise like pale moons, stitched to the earth by tradition. I'm handed kumis, meet eyes that smile before words arrive, and I'm reminded that hospitality can be a form of geography. Inside, felt walls soften the wind. Outside, the steppe keeps its long conversation with the horizon. At Songkul, dusk gathers slowly. The lake becomes a thought you can walk into. Horses return as silhouettes. Bells answer distance with distance. Stars arrive in a rush, an avalanche of quiet light. Morning, frost like fine handwriting on the grass. The stove sighs awake, tea steams. A colt learns the language of balance. I ride toward a ridge and the world tilts. Alatu peaks lifting like the ribs of the planet. There a hidden tarn catches the sun and tosses it back, unbroken. Nomadic freedom is not escape. It is belonging without fences. The lakes teach it best. Reflect, then release. I came chasing stillness and found a map drawn by hooves, wind and water. Follow it, and you don't just see Kyrgyzstan. You hear it breathe, color and calm. The kind of calm that settles before the first shop opens. That is what I feel as Salento opens beneath the Andes sky. Morning mist lifts, a quiet breath exhaled by the hills. In Cocora Valley, the wax palms rise, tall, patient, unhurried. Otherworldly sentinels, brushed against shifting clouds. I follow a narrow path. Dew paints quiet crescents on my boots. Hummingbirds stitch the cool air with threads of color. The trunks climb and keep climbing, slender, impossibly high. They lean like brushstrokes across a soft green canvas. Not drama here, gentleness, layered and deep. A slower beat of South America, steady as footsteps on stone. By midday, the valley loosens its shoulders and warms. Hoofprints, a simple diary of ordinary journeys. A creek keeps its distance, but its music carries. I stop to listen. Silence here has layers and patience reveals them. Back in Salento, calm turns to color. Facades in cobalt and tangerine. Doors trimmed with careful hands and long memory. A plaza that does not rush, it simply breathes. I cradle smooth local coffee, roasted down the street, hills after rain in a cup. In Salento, coffee is craft, heat and humble pride. A Willys rattles past, harvest piled high, the slopes stitched into sacks. Children drift between ice cream and marbles, joy measured in small, bright moments. Lunch is trout from cold streams, lime bright, butter simple, unpretentious as the town. As evening folds in, colors soften, a bell drifts over roofs, steps rise to the mirador. Here time does not shout, it speaks in low tones, in mist, in wood, in coffee, in footsteps that do not hurry. Salento and Cocora are not a spectacle, they invite a pace. Match it, and the place answers, softly. São Miguel Island, a lone green volcano breathing in the Atlantic. Clouds move like lungs. The land answers with slow, steady life. Here time chooses patience, and patience becomes power. At sunrise, Sete Cidades opens as a vast, bowl-shaped hush. Two mirrors hold the heavens, blue on one side, green on the other. A single old ridge divides them, a quiet heartbeat across water. The air is damp with cloud, the ground smells of young earth. Hydrangeas paint the margins, soft blues and purples guiding the way. In furnace, the earth exhales, steam writes moving sentences in air. Ghost-like plumes rise, whispering of fires that never sleep. Mud speaks in soft gurgles, an alphabet of heat and time. Lunch arrives from below, cozido, cooked by the veins of the island. 1,000 kilometers of ocean guard this shore, shaping what survives. In Nordest, laurel fog turns moss electric. Old forests glow alive. Listen for the priolo, delicate, stubborn, belonging only to this place. At Goriana, tea grows like waves, tending its leaves to ocean wind. Lagoa do Fogo, an elevated blue eye ringed by quiet hills. Clouds drop low, the island softens, reshaping itself in moments. Down at Mosteiros, lava has stiffened into dark ribs against the sea. Every wave edits the coastline. Storms revise and shorelines learn. In Gruta de Carvão, cooled rivers of rock preserve their flow. A touch reads time, the earth's handwriting in stone. On the cliffs, calm is motion, peace that never sits still. São Miguel is not a postcard. It is a conversation between elements, between fire's memory and stone, and water's breath on the shore, between patience that grows and strength that arrives in waves. Stand still, and you will hear it, the hum of a living island, inviting you to slow to its beat. A peaceful volcano, written in steam, seen in lakes, carried on the wind. The wind, tasting of distance, combs the dunes and scours the headlands. Salt rides the air, engraving every surface with a fine white memory. And far out, the roaring forties draw a long breath, sending weather across the world to break here. This is Tasmania's west coast, where stone meets a restless horizon. Here the map frays at the edges, and the roads simply stop. I arrive on a ribbon of bitumen that narrows to a question mark. Past Zeehan, Strahan and the Henty dunes, the land grows quiet. Ocean beach stretches empty to a horizon that never answers back. At Macquarie Harbour, the water turns the colour of ink, tannins leached from forests older than memory. I take the slow way, drifting up the Gordon River. Here, ancient Huon pines breathe in centuries, not seasons. Every bend feels like a kept secret offered and then hidden again. Farther north, the Takaina, holds one of the last great temperate rainforests on Earth. Moss thick as velvet, softening every hard lesson of time. Myrtle, green and patient, holds the light like a promise. Sassafras stitched together by mist. Footsteps soften, voices fall to whispers. At Arthur River, the road gives up. It ends at Gardner Point. Locals call it the edge of the world. Here waves have crossed oceans to break themselves into weather. Driftwood lies like the bones of old ships. The wind carries stories you can't quite translate. Out here, nowhere is not absence. It is presence without interference. Towns are dots. Time is a longer measure. In Corinna, a small ferry whispers across the water, while the rainforest leans in, listening. I watch a storm roll in, slow and inevitable. The sky lowers, and the birds go quiet. Then rain, clean, cold, uncomplicated, the kind that resets your thinking. People say this is the end of the earth. To me, it feels like the start of a sentence no one rushes to finish. If you come lightly, take your time. Let the coast show you how silence fills a map. And when the road runs out, do not be surprised. Some places are meant to be walked in the mind, long after you have left the shore. I've always believed the world whispers before it shouts. Today, we follow the whisper into places too beautiful for crowds. In Kotor, Montenegro, mountains fold into a mirror of the sea. Here, stone walls remember every echo. History breathes in the hush between footsteps. Far north, the Lofoten Islands rise like dragonbacks from the Arctic. Midnight light paints humble cabins gold. Waves write fleeting poems on black sand. In Svaneti, watchtowers stand like sentinels of the sky. Villages cling to the mountains with quiet defiance. The wind carries the courage of those who never left. At Lake Bled, a ring of mountains cradles a fairy tale, an island, a bell, a promise the water keeps for those who listen. Socotra feels like another planet, strange, beautiful, alive. Dragon's blood trees tilt towards sun and salt. Here, even silence bursts with color. Yakushima is a living forest of rain and breath. Moss softens edges. Cedars remember centuries. I step softer here, a guest of the green. Across Kyrgyzstan, horizons unravel into grass and light. Horses stitch bright lines through valleys. Felt walls glow against the mountain cold. In Cocora, wax palms puncture the clouds, impossibly tall, impossibly serene. San Miguel holds craters and lakes the color of old stories. Tea gardens drink the sea breeze. Steam lifts like a quiet blessing from the earth. At the ends of maps, Tasmania, cliffs fall into the restless ocean. Forests here breathe in ancient time. The edge of the world feels like a beginning. These places survive because few reach them. Not everything beautiful needs crowds. Travel is not distance, it is awareness, a devotion to the overlooked. If this journey moved you, like the video, share it with someone who loves quiet beauty, and subscribe for more hidden corners of our world.